What's going on, guys? Jay with Level Up Design here. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. Appreciate you for tuning in, and I'm a little behind with these videos. Had some things come up over the weekend to take care of. Everything's well, of course. I want to really take some time with going into this series so we could really get in depth of what your next steps would be, right? To get your game honed out, get it all finalized, and obviously start building it, right? So this video is going to consist of primarily two big elements in the process, right? Which is going to be getting your mechanics, right? Like your feature mechanics, or sorry, your features and your mechanics in line. So we have the gameplay, right, of whatever's going to be happening in the level, the world, whatever, right, in your scene. And then the next part we're going to go into, which is crucial for pretty much everybody that's in the building of the game, right, on the team, from artists to programmers to level designers to even project directors, right? And that's going to be references. References really just kind of ties into research as well. If you're kind of wondering what exactly that means, definitely check out my video of where's the toilet, you know. I'll go ahead and post the link up here so you guys can check that out. But yeah, references research, just getting all the info or some idea of how things would look, how to design certain things to help get the team rolling on making those certain mechanics, the level, making certain designs, whatever the case may be. Let's go ahead and get into the mechanics and features part of it now, so go ahead and check that out. Alright, cool. So now I kind of have this split up now to have phases of how you should do your design process when it comes to your game. So kind of just giving out some general tips, right, when you're doing these parts in the process, so you kind of know what exactly your team should focus on, right? So we're going into the features and the mechanics of the game. So basically it's just a layout of what the gameplay is, right? So first thing we want to talk about is when it comes to mechanics, that could be anywhere from the movement of the game, where it's forward, backward, jumping, crouching, vaulting if you have that. It could also be combat, if you have a combo system, abilities, cooldowns. You could go into inventory system, go to a skill tree, XP system, and so on, right? Basically what we want to do in this section, when we're kind of hashing out those ideas, is first off, we want to focus on needs and not wants. So what that means by need is something that it is a core element of the actual game, right? So if let's say your game is a platformer, and in your platformer, your main thing you're doing is obviously moving, right, from side to side, but you're also a big part of it is vaulting, right? Maybe it could be swinging on the terrain, right? Could be running across walls, whatever, right? That's gonna be a big part of it, so we got to make sure we start focusing on that. Whereas comparison to want is, let's say, like a mechanic that lets me use the ability to make my character bigger, right? That's good and all. And it's not saying it's not a necessity, but it's more like something that you would want to have. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to turn it down, just completely, throw it down the garbage chute, but you want to put down the backlog, right? So you want to first focus on the main elements that is a big part of your entire gameplay in both the main level world you're in and even spreading across, right? If there's, let's say, you go from movement and then introduces vaulting, and from vaulting introduces power-ups, power-ups towards vaulting, then, you kind of scale it that way. But you focus on the things that are main element, and then the other stuff that it would be cool to have, but not as important to get the foundation set up, and you put that in the backlog. And then once you get the core element set up, revisit the backlog, and then you repeat, right? So now you move stuff from the backlog that is crucial to the next step, you put that in the needs category, basically, to start working on it. Next is something that makes them unique. Now, when it comes to unique, there are so many games out there that it's hard to make things that are kind of standard in any game, whether it's movement, shooting, stealth, vaulting, doing assassinations, right? But there are some things that you could tweak in a way that makes it unique to you, right? So a good example, because I'm working on something right now, is a horror game, right? Most horror games have jump scares, have being attacked, dying, whatever. But something that could be noteworthy for you is you have a certain main mechanic, right, that is used to explore the world. And that's kind of going to go into my next section, which is the featured asset. But basically, and a good example of this is called Madison. So Madison, it's a fairly new game, relatively short, but really awesome design with it. Kind of spooky too, obviously. But basically, you have a camera as your main core element that helps you explore, right? You take a picture, shows you something, or it scares away an enemy, and then you kind of use that throughout the whole gameplay, right? So that's something that makes you unique, because people use cameras all the time in video games, right? But now how do you use that in a way that it's kind of a staple in a lot of types of that games in that genre, but it's kind of unique in its own way. And that's obviously going to take some brainstorming on what you think would make it like a little different and make it stand out. Another good one is called, I think, Subliminal. I forgot what it was, but it's basically, you have a camera, same concept, right? You take a picture of, like I say, a scene, and you can actually put it into the world to create like a path for you in a sense. Super cool. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. It's awesome. But then that again tying into the featured asset. So it could be like a main mechanic that's used in the game. It could also be a dominant or a point of interest, right? So, you know, if you have a setting in a farm, and like, you know, you're gonna be exploring it, what's the main dominant in that? Could be a windmill, could be a farmhouse, could be a silo, could be an abandoned shack, right? It's really off to the distance, whatever you like to put, but just something to consider, right? Because it's not like always a huge necessity in worlds, but usually you want to have an element that ties both the viewer's attention to it and then guides them to like a main part of, let's say, your story, right? If you're trying to get to finding out what happened to somebody, and you show up to where they were last seen, but you see a really big lighthouse in the back, right? That's shining, you have the lighting all balanced out and everything, then the player would be like, oh, okay, that looks important, let me go check that out, and they'll go ahead towards that direction. Something just to consider, and you could always have multiple options, and then once you actually get to the prototyping stage, you know, test out some features, or if you're building out the map, which you should, you know, also get that in line too. But that's kind of like what it is with the features, right? So mainly, to summarize it, getting some core elements for mechanics and start getting those designed. Then you're gonna also want to make sure, see what we can do to make something unique within those core mechanics and make your game stand out. And then obviously focusing on your featured asset, the main dominant of that level or that world, that really is meant to draw the player's attention to it. So go explore it and, you know, continue on with your game. Let's go into the next one. So really crucial part of this process, and that's going to be the references and getting research. Let's go ahead and check that out right now. Sweet. So now we're going to go into a big part of the whole design process as well, and that's going to be gathering references and research. So basically, that ties into pretty much all departments or any member of the team on you know, kind of collaborating with that, right? Usually you want to start with, like, the term I use is a mood board. Mood board is basically just like a panel of different pictures, videos, snippets, like storyboards as well, that show kind of what you're trying to aim to build, right? And there could be a lot of setups with this, but really references or getting research is going to help you guys, or yourself if you're the only person on the team, to build out whatever mechanic, environment, core gameplay loop you're trying to do, right? So, and there's a lot of ways to do this, a lot of different types of mood boards you could do. So first off, we're going to have like just standard, right? Pictures and videos. So it's just examples of the world. So if you're trying to build out a, let's say like a World War II foresty area, you can even just type that in Google, World War II forest area. You can add in concept art, and that should help you out, you know, because some people do make designs like that, and you kind of get an idea. If you're interested as well, you can also use AI to help create those worlds. You just type in whatever prompt you want, and it's going to give you a couple options of how it painted that scene, right? And then you could use that as your main reference. And like I said, this also applies to mechanics. So if you're trying to create, let's say, a Bayonetta combat, like a combo combat, right? So you want to probably put a video in there showing how that looks. You know, is it just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 combo? You know, can you stack abilities on that? Is there passives on it? Is there buffs that you could use? So on, right? And if that applies to other different weapons, you have different combos, etc., etc. But you have that, so you could, as a designer, or if you have another programmer or programmers to work on it, they'll go in there, watch the video, and kind of understand where they need to start, you know, working on to get to that point, right? The next one is going to be like architectural, and for architectural, it's more like when you're building out the world, right? Or you're building out, like, say, a building. So if your main, like, to say, dominant in the scene, it's going to be a motel, right? Or a hotel, whatever you like. You want to start getting some ideas of how a typical structure of that looks, and especially when it ties into your setting, right? So with your setting, you want to be able to, if you're designing a cyberpunk hotel, you don't want to make it look like Western, right? That's not really not going to fit to the setting, the theme of the game. So you want to keep that in mind, and then again, structurally, like how is it going to look, and that's things to think about, right? Building, you're not just walk in and it just a huge open space, right? You're gonna have furniture, you're gonna have you're probably like debris, trash cans, and you're gonna have columns, like supporting pillars that hold up the building, because that's realism, right? Now, if you're not going there, that's a different story entirely, but realistically, that's kind of what to kind of keep in mind. The next one also is going to be environmental. So again, this ties into architecture, but really it's more like creating a setting, right? If your environment is a forest, you're not going to be trying to create desert landscape in there. It just doesn't make much sense. It doesn't fit. They're not they don't work well with each other. So you want to try and get designs or references of what that environment would look like, have it all on a storyboard, or what I like to use called PureRef. PureRef is just basically like a mood board. It's a big board. You just drag and drop pictures in there. I'll leave a link in the description to download it if you guys are interested. But that's a good reference tool for you guys to use to start building out that references log, basically. Next, we got lighting. So lighting is, believe it or not, a very big part of balancing out scenes. If you're making a horror game, you don't want to have super nice bright lights and RGB everywhere. It doesn't fit with it, right? It's usually pretty dark, pretty gloomy, very minimal light sources, probably kind of foggy. It just depends on what you're trying to aim for, which I would also recommend looking into color theory, because color theory usually have complementing colors that tie in well with like a setting, right? So like typically if you see a red in the game, right, usually it means it's danger, like you shouldn't go there. Same thing with like yellow in some games is more like navigational, right, like guidance. So if you see like a yellow wall in the corner, usually means you go up to it, interact through it, and climb it or vault over it or whatever. Next one is going to be like props and assets. So props and assets is just when you start like pretty much getting things done with like the core foundation of the gameplay. Now you're going to go into building out the world, right? Usually you have somebody, your level designer, block out areas, right, and kind of show like, all right, this is going to be just your standard wall, this one's going to be a furniture piece, this one's going to be something that's part of a mechanic, whatever it may be. But you want to get a list of those assets, and usually once the level designer does his work, he can fill out it himself, right? He'll be able to say exactly what they're looking for. Then you either go ahead and get artists to start working on some things, or if you, like me, because I'm not really good artsy-wise, you're looking to get some asset packs so you can start using it into your world, then perfect. You can start just looking for exactly what you need. And last but not least is going to be the art style. So basically, you don't want to have stylized art if you're aiming for realism, right? And vice versa. You wouldn't want to have a hyper-realistic turtle in a cartoony game. I know Animal Crossing did that. Like they had a hyper-realistic snapping turtle. I'll put it right here. It's like really, really realistic. And it's kind of cheesy, and I guess games could get away with that, but realistically you want to have everything pretty concise, right? For realism, stick with realism. If stylized, stick with stylized. If it's like kind of like comic booky, kind of that sharp shadowing, then you want to stick with that through and through, right? And it just kind of goes completely across the board with all the elements of this. So when it comes to your lighting, when it comes to your environment, when it comes to your props, right, you want to all keep it consistent, because if you keep it consistent, even a stylized game could make things seem real, right, and provide realism. So just something to keep in mind when you start designing stuff like this. Again, I personally like to use PureRef. And for me, since I'm a level designer, I have to use an LDD. LDD is kind of the same concept. Pretty much just have, if I want a house look a certain way, I'll export my PureRef board, put it into the LDD so I can have all the references there. And I can refer to it whenever, really. And not to say that, obviously, like, mechanics are super important, and so is getting the research set up. But when you're doing mechanics, definitely make sure that it's just bare bones, right? We don't need there's no need for flashy stuff, right? We don't need effects, a PFI, we don't need sounds going off. We don't need like flares or anything. It's just bare bones. Just get a couple of different animations just to show off that it's different, or even sound cues that just go ha, hoo, ha. That's it, right? So you know that the combo system is working. And then as we go down the steps of this and you go into the polish stage, which is basically replacing it with textured assets and everything, that's when you could go ahead and start adding in that flair and making it real and bringing it to life, right? Yeah, and I feel like I'm just gonna go and actually call it there, because that's pretty much a big part of it, right? So with these steps, right, just to summarize it. So first off, we're gonna make a list of features and mechanics. What are necessities, what's gonna make them stand out if possible, right? So even if it's just one thing, gonna make it unique, and then getting a featured asset to bring that level to life. And then you want to get research on pretty much everything within your game, right? And just to summarize some of them, you got pictures, you got videos, architectural design, you have environment designs, you have the lighting for the setting and setting the theme, you have the props and the assets needed to bring the world to texture and bring it to life, and you have the art style as well, so we can make sure everything's consistent throughout your gameplay experience. So I hope that was informative for you guys. Obviously, if you have any questions, leave a comment down in the video. If you haven't already liked the video, subscribe. I am aiming to do videos pretty much every Tuesday and Thursday as time persists. But nonetheless, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.